Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the VF Comics and Graphics podcast. I am so excited because I'm here today with an upcoming writer and artist, and according to his description on the Kickstarter, world builder and dungeon master, Christopher Michael, who is heading a comic book series called Crit.
How you doing?
Hey, man. Thank you so much for coming and hang out with us. I have been checking out y'all's Kickstarter and Facebook, and I know earlier when we talked, you said that this most recent Kickstarter for issue 5 was fully funded in, what did you say, 26 minutes?
Yeah, we did 26 minutes exactly to break the $1,500.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was stressful going into it because when I started this adventure, I had no clue what I was doing. I did some research, and a lot of the stuff I read was that $1,500 was a good price point. Mind you, I had never made a comic book before. I just started drawing one day and decided to make a comic book. So I had no idea what I was doing, and I just went by the research that I did. Well, when it boiled down to, is I only needed about $500 to get the book done, and to pay the colorist because I was doing the interior work. So in retrospect, I should have asked about $500. I did all the cover work. I did everything myself. I didn't really need the funding. I just needed to pay her for her work. Well, the Kickstarter failed because we didn't reach 1,500. I had zero social media. I had no website. I had nothing. I just accidentally launched a Kickstarter, but we wound up with about $500 and 35 backers. With no following whatsoever, which I was like, okay, cool. If we can pull 35 backers with me begging on Instagram for people to check my stuff out, I went back. That one was a blessing. A friend of mine reached out independently and said, hey, he has a private jet. He's very, very wealthy. He got into marijuana fields early on.
It's a good friend to have for lots of reasons.
He sent me $500 on Facebook while we were talking. Was like, how much do you need? And I was like, I just need about $500. And so he sent me the money I needed. And in turn, I went back onto Kickstarter and I messaged all those people and I said, hey, somebody else paid for it. I don't need, thank you for your interest in the book. I'm gonna send you a free book now, because with Kickstarter, if you don't fund, you don't collect. So I didn't collect any of their money, but I gave them a free book. Just about every single one of them came back for issue 2, which I launched a few months later after, starting an Instagram and a Facebook and doing all the marketing. That one did very well, just around 50 backers on that. And we've just continued to grow since. And with this one, I've never really gone back and asked for 1,500 because of that first initial time. But this is a really large book. It's 50 pages. I've got to pay my colorist, and I've also got another artist doing 10 pages at the end. So I've got to pay him for his work. And then I've also got the cover artists were just amazing on this book. So there's a much larger cost with this, being it's a full, 0 through 5. So it's 6 books in one. It was just a costly venture. So when we went to Kickstarter and I looked at that 1,500, I kept getting nervous. Like, oh God, what if it fails like the first one? And seeing everybody come out within the first 26 minutes to get that funded, just I couldn't explain the feeling. It was really cool because of those nerves that had built up, And I did a live launch on our Instagram, and I just had people bouncing in and out, and they were watching it more than I was, and they're like, "Hey, you just hit this! Hey, you just hit this!" And I was like, "Oh my God, this is awesome!" And today we are $47. I just checked, $47 away from the first stretch goal at $2,500. So we're about to get collector cards for all the physical backers, which is going to be awesome. I've got those finished. The artwork is done on them. I just gotta, unlock them.
Yep. That's awesome because, yeah, I'm looking here on this page. You've already got 55 backers. Also, kudos on the good guy move of being, I have the funding. Thank you so much for supporting me. Here's issue 1. Because I guarantee, yeah, that made a lot of, I mean, if someone did that for me when I backed a project, I think doing good guy moves like that is good publicity now. Because it's not something you had to do, and you probably could have kept some of those backers for the future still. but you did it anyway. Uh,
And some of them offered to buy the book, and I just said no. Yeah, I didn't. I don't do this for money. This is fun. This is, I feel like when you start making something into a cash venture is when it loses a lot of the meaning to you.
mhm.
If you can see behind me, I have all these guitar amps. I have guitars over my wall. I was in a band for 6 years. I traveled professionally. We were signed onto a subsidiary of Sony
Oh
Records,
wow.
and it started fun in the basement, fun at the shows, just having fun. When we partied so hard. Um, when it became this thing where I had to keep track of album sales and we had budgets and it became this job, it really lost a lot of that fun for me. And given with comics, I have to pay taxes because of the money from Kickstarter, and I get that there's the business aspect to it, but at the core of this, it is all about me and my friends having fun. So I just want to keep it like that, as fun and loose as possible.
So yeah, and that's actually one thing I'm really excited about for your book. As you mentioned, it's you and your friends having fun, and that's an element of it because this isn't just a book that you're making on your own. This book is about an actual game of Dungeons and Dragons that you and your friends are playing. And so tell us about it, like elevator pitch for us. This book, what it's about, and what makes it so special.
So the elevator pitch, I'll give everyone the elevator pitch I gave them when I pitched the idea to them to play the game, which was um, imagine in the modern world, you wake up tomorrow and you go to work for your first day at this new job, and an accident happens, and the next day you wake up with superpowers. What do you do? Okay, because in the situation that they're in, their boss somehow knows that they have powers. He's figured it out, and we don't. And if you've read issue 0 or 1, we don't dive into that. Okay, we just know that the boss knows they have powers and has employed them to be his personal superheroes. And what he wants to do with them is market them as superheroes and make money. So their job is to be superheroes. Problem is, they're not superheroes. They're vigilantes. They're running around shooting people. They have a bad image, and he wants them to do he just wants him at this point. It's like just protect my stuff, right? We're bigger than Google. We're bigger than Apple. I have a lot of thieves. Just protect my stuff. Well, now they stumble upon a bigger a bigger thing, and I don't want to give away too much, but they keep finding that while it's cool for powers to exist in this world, that also means that there's going to be really bad people out there that can abuse them. And it's really a journey of a group of friends facing different challenges that they decide whether they're going to be heroes or not. And that's a struggle because you've got a team of 5 guys, and not all of them want to do the same thing. So how does this group of ragtag dudes figure out how to work together to solve this problem when they all have different approaches? Um, that's that's really what at the core it is. It's a superhero book, but it's not like any superhero book that I've read. Um, it's all at the roll of the die. Everything you read happens at the table. It's all random. And yeah, so there's some twists, there's some turns, there's some defeat, there's some wins, there's a lot of sarcasm because that's my friends. And
Yep.
if you've played D&D, you know it just get really weird and crazy.
Yep. And something I wrote down on here is that's got to be really difficult for you for writing a book, in that you can't plot out 5 issues ahead because the players' decisions are not between the players' decisions could be anything, even if they stay true to character. On top of dice rolls, you you might have a basis for what you're writing, but I've played enough D&D where I know that you could lay out this like plan that'll take multiple sessions, and your friends figure out how to knock it out in 20 minutes. Um,
Yep.
so how difficult is it for you to plan when you aren't sure what's going to happen? What's it like to write a book that is kind of partially being written by a group of people all making individual decisions?
Well, we are 3 years in, so everything's pre-recorded at this point. We are, yeah, we're we've been playing the same game for 3 years now, and I'm blessed with the fact that we're so far ahead in the game that, and if again you have enough table knowledge to know the DM probably at some point introduced something that he wanted and he thought was cool, and then you and your crew said, "No, that's boring. I want to go do this."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I have enough um, information in the future of what we do to remove some of these obstacles which would create dead storytelling. So I don't introduce something that I think is cool and maybe a few readers will think is cool and then never shows back up, right? I don't create questions like that because when we go to the actual writing stage of the book, I get with Brad and I get with the guys and I say, hey, okay, so I made this really cool underground thing full of mutants and weird people and like almost a different world, right? A pocket dimension within the world I wanted to do. I won't even go into how dumb that sounds now, but they went in, they said this is stupid, and they walked right back out.
Oh man.
And the entire session was based around that. And so um, I had to learn early on. I did a YouTube video recently where we released for the only time they've ever gotten together all at once for to talk about the book. Um, the thing about the chapter we're releasing right now, book 5, is the first time that I, as a DM, said, "Here's a situation. What do you do?" Instead of planning these big, elaborate stories. Because by this point, I realized if I plan for it to happen, they're going to make sure it doesn't. And now my approach is I create a situation and I let the world react to them. I let them kind of navigate this. And we get such a cooler story because you've got 4 to 5 guys with like different ideas going on at the same time. And so it's just twists and turns, and I'm just sitting there reacting to what they do. It's like, oh, if you want to go down that hallway, cool, electrified, because I can, because I'm the DM. Oh, I have one guy that wants to split off from the rest of the team. Tiny robots attack
Yep.
you when you're in that.
Never split off a D&D. That is dangerous.
Exactly. Like I just create these little things that I can throw at them now instead. And I build the map. This is where you're at. This is what it looks like, and then depending on which way they go is how I kind of react to them. And like it's just been book 5, and where we were at in that campaign at that time was the first time everybody really owned their characters so well, and I feel like we just came together from that point on. It was a turning point in our playing, in which arguably created a turning point in the story. And you know, for D&D players, that's usually how it goes,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you have a new team. Your DM needs to figure out your players need to figure out their characters, and then it takes a few sessions for everything to settle in. And you, as a reader, get to see that even in the book, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're seeing them kind of get settled in. And yeah, they unlock some new powers, or maybe there's something else that's cool. But book 5, you really see them all shine, come to life in their own ways, and do things that they hadn't done before, learn more about their powers and things. Um, we still talk about this session, and this happened in the end of
I'm
2019.
gonna say 3 years ahead. Yeah, that's been a while ago. So that's
Yeah,
exciting.
the session that we're putting out, we still talk about because there's a scene in there where Boulder screams, "If the cream is sour, do not devour," and it has to do with bad tacos. Let's just put it that way. Um, and we stopped the game at that point, and I had just started working on book 1 when we were playing this game. I had just maybe drawn the first page, and they were like, "That's got to go in the comic
Yes.
book. That right there." And the cover of one of the covers of book 5 is Boulder on the ground, holding his belly, all bloated, tacos everywhere, Caliber holding him, and he's looking like he's like dying in pain. And that was the even behind the name intestinal fortitude, right? Which means don't crap your pants.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it just inspired the entire thing, and that's how our D&D sessions go. Is usually a bunch of crazy things happen, and we're like, "Yep, that's going to make the book." And
Yes.
it's not action based; it's all the role playing.
So for the script, are you using so you said you so y'all record the sessions? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So you're using, I assume, the actual dialogue your players use as a dialogue for the characters?
Yeah. So when I plot the pages out, I do 3 to 4 pages at a time. I'll plot them out, and I'll send them to Brad and Terrell because they're like my key idea guys. Um, and they have a so Terrell's background is actually in education, so he has a lot of English, and he's very well versed in that. And Brad, well, Brad's been a DM since he was like 5,
Okay.
for one, and for two, um, he could just go write a book with some of the stuff that he's created. So they're like my counterbalancing with the storytelling. But when I plot things out, they'll help me. Maybe we should turn them this way, or maybe we should the action scene should look more like this, right? Because again, we're going off of audio,
Yeah.
not visual. They'll help me with that, and I'll lay it out basically with the dialogue from the game. I'll just write it in there. This is what this person said, and then when all is said and done with the artwork, we're going through, and some of that dialogue doesn't make it because it's just absolutely stupid. Um,
A group of dudes
or
getting together for D&D have they say stupid things? What?
well, right, or and I say this because the comic book arguably influences a lot of their decision making now, to the point where when we go back through the book and I bring it to everybody when we're all done, and I say, let's do a read through, they're changing some of their dialogue because they're like, hey, I could have said that better, right? Or my character at that, because again, we know our characters better now 3 years later than we did when we first started. Hey, Spectre would probably say this, or Boulder might say this instead, and we'll refine some of it. But at the core, it still comes from that player and that character. I'm not writing their dialogue. That's how we keep their personalities intact. Um, because there was book 2, one of the big um, things. My brother reads all these. My little brother loves to rip them apart.
That's awesome.
And he said, Spectre and Reach, they don't really differentiate themselves from the rest of the team. They're just kind of like these back characters. And I said, well, that's because they didn't do anything that game. We had to fill in a lot of their dialogue because they just didn't do anything. They weren't really into their character yet. And I said, at that point, I went to the guys and I said, do we want to let them rewrite it? Well, no, because our shtick is this is what happens at the game. Like we don't want to take away from the reader just because we want to like beef something up. They didn't play well. They suck. you know. Now it's on paper. You sucked that session.
Everyone knows.
Right.